Hello everyone and welcome to a new series on this channel that I'm going to be do every 3 months. I'm going to do it for a fourth of the year. So we are 1/4 of the way done with 2020. It can't go by any slower. This series is called Heavy Rotation. It is pulled directly from the Spotify use of heavy rotation. Oh, what is in your heavy rotation? And I'm like, that's clever, I'm going to use it. And I took it, and it is something that I'm going to use. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some albums that I've rated pretty positively this year. Everything from like B+ and above. I also want to talk about some singles that I've been listening to, some of my favorite singles up until this point, and put a playlist down below for a Spotify playlist. You can go check them out. We're just going to roll through this list. I'm going to talk briefly about these records. All of the video links will be in the description box down below, as well as the Spotify playlist that I mentioned earlier. So let's get started with the young Nudie project. Anyways, intoxicating trap at its finest, in the same vein as Playboi Carti's Die Lit. Similar to that album, this album has instrumentals that very much complement young Nudie as a vocalist. Not only lyrically, but vocally, he has his own style, his own character. He is really driving in his own lane that he is paving himself. I think this is an album that people should check out if they're curious. It is nearly 60 minutes long, and that's probably my only complaint with this record because it is everything I really want in a trap album. Nice flows, interesting wordplay, or just interesting lyrics as a whole, and production that's not stale, boring, or repetitive. Next, the new Floral Tattoo album, You Can Never Have a Long Enough Head Start. If you're looking for a shoegazy, lo-fi, indie, emo record, this is totally up your alley. In my opinion, a gem in the genre of emo music that has been kind of having somewhat of a resurgence lately, and I'm kind of happy about that because I like emo music. But what this album has to offer is a lot of character, a lot of passion, and a lot of just really good instrumentation as well. Nothing too lo-fi to the point of like, oh, it's just like grating. Lyrics are also an emotional gut punch as well, something that I can really attach myself to. Next, the new HMLTD record, West of Eden. If you're looking for art, glam, punk, this is totally up your alley. And a lot of these songs kind of have their own kind of personality to them, but they all are connected in such a way where it doesn't feel too disjointed or disconnected, but they don't feel stale. A lot of these songs don't riff on the same ideas, and each song has their own distinctive personalities again. A record that I'm really happy to say is something that I could see HMLTD perfecting down the line, because while there are some really interesting ideas on this record, bouncing back and forth, there are ideas that I feel like could be honed in more. But for what we have on this record, we have a very solid debut. Next, the new Grimes album, Miss Anthropocene, a record that I really enjoy. I know some people will criticize this album as being inconsistent and underwritten, and I totally agree with that sentiment. But for me personally, I think the atmospheres evoked on this record are just something close to tangible. No, not the most atmospheric record I've ever heard, and no, not the most textured record I've ever heard. This is something that I was not really anticipating from a Grimes record, but for what we have on this record, the, again, dark atmospheres that are laid out across this record are just very well done. Next, the new Weeknd project, After Hours. I think the Weeknd really reinvented himself for a new sound and a new style for the decade. An 80s synth-pop odyssey that takes you down a familiar soundscape, not to the point of annoyance, but also not to the point of obscurity. After Hours is really the reinvention that I wanted from the Weeknd, because while I do appreciate what his trilogy series has to offer, and I will not deny the significance it has on alternative R&B for the 2010s, it's a sound that he was kind of getting used to. But on this record, I'm happy to report that it's a good record. Check it out. Even if you're not a Weeknd fan, this is something that I think you will enjoy. At least enjoy some tracks on here. Even if there are moments that are not as stellar as other moments, this is still a really good record. Next, this record makes me happy to do something like this, because if it wasn't for someone recommending me to review this album, I would have never noticed it. It is the new Aegis album, Drommen. Take the alt-rock sounds of the 2000s and reinvent them for the modern age, for today. And this is what you have roughly. A sound and a style that comes through very plainly, very clearly, but it's not to the point where it's gimmicky or it's just cliche. It's also not trying to relive its past, but trying to breathe new life into the genre. Alternative rock has been on its deathbed for the past several years, and there have been a few albums that kind of sparked life in it. This is a record that, while not trying to, bring it back to life, is another one of those sparks. For me personally, this is a record that it comes in a short package, but it's something that I can go back to and take a bite out of each time. Next is an album that has grown on me just a little bit this year. I did give it a good review, but it's grown on me just a little bit more. It is a very slow, progressive electronic album that is the Kraven False album, Erratics and Unconformities. This is a record with subtle synth work that just is so slow, but it builds to something so monumental. The sound design on this record is something that I have to admire because it is just so clean, so crisp, so well done. The progressions of these and the very subtle changes in electronics is so just moving. If the opening track, Vodka Wall, a 17-minute monster, says anything about this record, it is not for the impatient. To get to the climaxes of a lot of these songs, you have to sit through numerous minutes of subtle electronic manipulation that is worked in such a way that I just get a smile every time I listen to this record. If you like subtle electronics in the same vein as maybe like a Tangerine Dream a little bit, this ambient drone odyssey is something you should definitely check out. Next, the new Destroyer album, Have We Met? I can't really say anything other than this is just a normal Destroyer record. You have Dan Behar kind of spitting his lyricism, the stream of consciousness that he is just speaking. He's just doing it over some really interesting instrumentals. It's pretty much a Destroyer record through and through. It's an album that you see Dan Behar do different sounds and different styles to. And I think the change of pace from his previous effort, Ken, is something that's more welcoming. For me personally, I was looking for something more in that album, but what we have on this record is something that I really enjoy. Tracks like Crimson Tide, as well as The Raven, as well as Q Synthesizer, they all kind of feel like they come out of an attic from a box that has just a bunch of dust on it. The new Mac Miller album, Circles, is something that I also have to appreciate. This is a record that proves to people that posthumous records can be good. I hope this album also proves to record labels that posthumous records don't have to be soulless cash cows, milking everything from a dying artist's demos. It's really an album that Mac Miller, I feel like, completed before he finished it. And John Bryan helped assemble this in a beautiful record that I would classify as Mac Miller's best project. Also a very welcome ending to his legacy as a rapper, as an artist. I will admit I wasn't the hugest fan of Mac Miller, but this album just shows me his sound, his style, his character, his personality, something that I overlooked in his previous material. I do like this album quite a bit. I also like the Spanish Love Songs album, Brave Faces Everyone. If you're looking for anthemic emo and pop punk that has emotional, gut punch lyrics, this is totally for you. A record that, similar to the Floral Tattoo record, I have so much of a personal attachment to. This is just a record that I look at and I'm like, wow, this just connects to me in a lot of ways. I also bet that at least one lyric or one verse on this album can connect to someone, most anybody listening to the album. Sure, it's not reinventing the wheel, it's not reinventing the sound or style. I really think it's ironing out the wrinkles, it is smoothing out the edges, it's buffing out the scratches, it's really doing a sound and a style to a perfection. Some people might like that, others might not. I personally enjoy this record very much. I also enjoy the new Honey Harper album, Starmaker. God, this record's so gorgeous. It is such a gorgeous album. I love how the instrumentation plays into Honey Harper vocally and just how well this album comes together. From a production standpoint, it is immaculate. It is well produced, it is clean, but not to the point of sterile. And a lot of the sounds on this record, a lot of the songs, invoke a feeling of being in a Disney movie. I just love that about this record, and the songwriting is also stellar. There is very little that I have to complain about this record because it is honestly one of the best Dream Country records that I've heard in a while. and it's one of the most gorgeous debuts I've also heard in a while as well. The next album on this list is probably an album that I can look at and say in the future could become a classic album. It's not a modern classic per se, it's not a classic right now, but it could become a classic. That is the new R.A.P Ferreira project, Purple Moonlight Pages. This is an album where I feel like I'm sitting in a jazz lounge talking to Rory himself. We're having a conversation. He's talking to me. He's not preaching to me. He's not telling me how life should be. He's telling me how his life is. And I'm listening. The instrumentals on this record perfectly complement Rory himself as an artist and as a rapper, as a vocalist. I think each song has kind of its own little world to be lost in, and there's just so many great ideas on this record I can't get enough of. Jazziness turned up to a 10, Rory turned up to a 10. It's such a good record. It's a really good record. Check it out. Next, I want to shout out the Against All Logic project 2017 through 2019, a record that sees more of a tech house post-industrial IDM excursion compared to the Against All Logic's first project, which was 2012 through 2017, a set of deep, funky house tunes that more or less felt like a compilation. This album does not feel like a compilation. These songs weave into one another very nicely. It is a sound shift, it is a palette changed, but it's still something that sounds really fresh and good. From the chopped up Lydia Lunch vocal sample on the track If You Can't Do It Good, Do It Hard, to the Beyonce flip on the opening track. The subtleness of the last couple of tracks like Faith or Penny, and just Alarm and Defers. Oh my gosh, this entire record has memorable songs, catchy songs as well. Like, I would never expect an electronic album to be as catchy as it is like this one. I think Nicholas Jar set a high bar for himself on this record. He also did with his last project under this name, but yeah, I think he really hit it out of the park on this one. It couldn't have gone any better, in my opinion. Next, the new Letrux album, Prantos. This is a Brazilian alt-rocker that I had no anticipation of liking this project as much as I do. This is a record that comes together very nicely. Similar to that HMLTD record that I was just talking about earlier, this record has different sounds and styles within its album runtime, but it doesn't feel disconnected, but it doesn't feel too connected. The sounds and the styles are done in such a way where it all comes together very free-flowing, very nicely, very organically. This is something I just want an alt-rock scene to be, and it's funny that Brazil is doing it a lot better than the Americans. You have a 2000s R&B throwback, you have a straight-up alt-rock, a pretty heavy alt-rock song, and other ideas sprinkled in, like a synth-pop odyssey on the latter moments of this record. There are just some really phenomenal ideas that are orchestrated really well, and the production of this record too. Oh my god, it's so good. The sound design, the quality, every instrument feels so necessary. I can't get enough of this record. And probably my favorite record as of now, but again, nothing is set in stone as of yet. Nothing is set in stone. Dan Deacon, Mystic Familiar. This is a post-minimalistic, neo-psychedelic, indie-tronica beauty. Dan Deacon's most realized work, his best crop of songs to date. It showcases him being eccentric, but not being too experimental, an edge of accessibility, and all around being ambitious as well. The strings, the electronics, everything about this record is really good. Golden. A record that I did not anticipate to like as much as I do this year, but man, I love this record so much. I really do. I also have to shout out 2 EPs. That is the Pressure Cracks EP. This is called Survival. This is a really great post-hardcore EP. I'm excited to see where this band can go from here. As well as the Naked EP, Killed by Roses. A really harsh, guttural, noisy, power electronics EP that is just a trip and a half. This thing is insane. I am running short on time here, but I do want to shout out a couple songs right now. First, the new Yves Tumor. I can never pronounce his name properly. This track, Gospel for a New Century, oh my gosh, what a good song. What a damn good song. I've been jamming this shit out all the time. Also, Dance Gavin Dance surprised me on their song Prisoner. I wasn't really excited about the other single, but this song, man, this song is good. Doja Cat with Boss Bitch off of the Birds of Prey soundtrack. I'm in love with this track as well. This song is just, oh my gosh. What the hell? Oh gosh. She comes through with so much personality on this song. So much character, so much bombast. I love it. I also have to shout out Lil Yachty for the track Oprah's Bank Account. I don't know why I like this song so much. Oh, it's so catchy, it's so infectious. The plinky piano notes mixed in with this trap hi-hat and Lil Yachty. I feel like this is kind of the same vein as what was on Little Boat. I just like it. I like it. Also, an artist that surprised me with his latest single. I was blown away by how much I actually like this song. I am surprised to say that I like a Lil Mosey song, Blueberry Faygo. This song is catchy as hell. The tropical instrumental that is on this song is just really just damn good. And yeah, I'm just surprised that I like this song as much as I do. It's a song that is just extremely infectious, and the chorus, the hook on this thing is, you know, playing on the 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of idea. You know, 1 bad bitch, and you do what I say, so 2 big 40s, 3 more hoes, pour up a 4, you get what I mean. All of these songs, a playlist, again, will be in the description box down below. Check these albums out, check these EPs out, check these songs out, check everything out, because I like them, and I hope you do too. But that is all I have to offer for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. Remember, this is only my opinion, because music is subjective.